Rain slammed against the car windows like it was angry single dad Michael Reyes, soaked to the bone in his security guard uniform, stood frozen at the entrance of Hartley Tech's marble lobby. His 6-year-old daughter, Luna, barefoot and clutching a damp sketchbook, stared up at the Billionaire CEO with silent confusion. "Mr. Reyes," barked the billionaire, Colton Hartley, not bothering to look up from his phone. "You brought your child into a level 1 boardroom zone." Michael nodded, voice tight. Her babysitter bailed. She was scared and home alone just for a few minutes. "You're fired," Colton snapped. "Effective immediately." Luna's lip quivered. "But Daddy didn't mean to." Her little voice echoed through the vast lobby. Michael reached to comfort her, but she dropped the sketchbook. It hit the floor, pages flipping open on their own. What spilled out wasn't just crayon drawings. It was truth. Colton bent down, curiosity replacing irritation. Inside were drawings of her father sleeping in his car, sharing one meal between them, watching her through school gates because he couldn't afford daycare. Luna whispered. He said it was better to be cold than to be careless. And for the first time, the billionaire paused, because that sketch, it looked exactly like his own childhood. The rain hadn't let up in hours. It fell in sheets, slapping the cracked windshield of a beat-up silver Corolla parked under a flickering street lamp. Inside, Michael Reyes, 34, exhaled slow and shallow. His breath fogged the glass. His uniform, a navy blue security jacket, with a worn Hartley Tech patch, was still damp from the walk. But he didn't care about himself. Curled up in the passenger seat, wrapped in a faded blanket, was his daughter, Luna, barely 6. Her sketchbook rested on her lap, a red crayon still in her small fingers. She had drawn something before falling. Asleep, a picture of a tall man holding an umbrella over a little girl. The man had his face turned away. But Luna had drawn a heart on his chest. Michael watched her chest rise and fall, the soft rhythm of sleep. Then he looked out at the towering glass building across the street, Hartley Tech HQ, where billionaires worked in offices warmer than his dreams. He checked the time, 11:12 p.m. His shift started in 18 minutes. He didn't want to wake her. He never wanted her to know the nights they spent in the car were not camping, but she always knew. Michael gently brushed a curl from her face. She stirred, opened her eyes halfway, then mumbled, "Are we gonna go home after work?" He hesitated, swallowed. "Yeah, baby," he whispered, "soon." The truth hurt more than the cold. He stepped out into the rain, quietly closed the door behind him, and headed toward the marble lobby. Inside, the lights gleamed. But they never reached men like him. Tonight would be different. He just didn't know it yet. 3 years earlier, the sun filtered softly through white curtains in a modest 2-bedroom apartment. Michael Reyes stood barefoot in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while humming an old song he couldn't name anymore. The scent of cinnamon and syrup floated through the air. From the hallway came laughter, real, free, untroubled. His wife, Elena, cradled a giggling baby Luna, flying her through the air like a paper plane. "She's gonna be an astronaut," Elena laughed. Michael grinned as he turned from the stove. "No way. She's gonna be an artist, like her mom." Elena smirked, brushing flour off her cheek. "I was a receptionist at a tattoo parlor, and still had better taste than most of the suits I draw buildings for." Michael shot back, setting the pancakes on a plate. This was before everything went gray. Michael had just been promoted, junior architect at a small but rising firm. His days were filled with CAD renderings and late nights at the drafting table. But he loved it. He was building a future. Their future. They didn't have much, but every inch of that apartment breathed warmth. Luna's finger paintings taped to the fridge. A photo of Michael and Elena laughing at Coney Island. The hand-me-down couch they swore they'd replace every year. And then came the cough. It started like nothing. Just a little tickle in Elena's throat that wouldn't go away. Then blood. then tests, then silence. Michael remembered that first night after the diagnosis, sitting in the dark living room while Luna slept, and Elena stared at nothing. "We'll fight this," he whispered, clutching her hand. She didn't answer. She just looked at him like she was memorizing his face. Hospitals have a way of making time feel dishonest, like clocks still tick, but nothing truly moves. Michael sat beside Elena's hospital bed, legal pads full of insurance notes, billing codes, and treatment estimates scattered across his lap. He hadn't shaved in days. His eyes were red but dry. He didn't have time to cry. Across the room, Luna colored quietly on the floor. Her crayon drawings had changed. Fewer animals, more pictures of beds and tubes, of a stick figure mommy. Sleeping under a sunless sky, Elena smiled faintly. "She thinks this is just a long nap." Michael didn't respond. He stared at the final bill, $74,000. He'd already sold their car, cashed out the last of their savings, asked friends for what little he could. His firm's health plan barely touched the chemotherapy cost. And there were no charity beds left at the public hospital. "We can move into a studio," Michael muttered. "Closer to the hospital, I can bike to work. I'll take on night shifts." Elena touched his hand, weak but firm. "Michael, you're trying to build a house on sand." He looked at her, desperate. "Then I'll dig deeper. I don't care if I break." She smiled again, the way someone does when they know more than they're willing to say. That night, he put in his resignation. Needed full-time flexibility. He would do whatever it took. Work odd jobs, clean floors. Anything. This was the beginning of the slow unraveling. Not with a crash, but with quiet compromises. One lease broken. One job lost. One meal skipped. The kind of earthquake that doesn't shake walls. It shakes lives. And Michael Reyes, once a rising architect, was now a man trying to outrun gravity. The hospice nurse was kind. She spoke in hushed tones, moved with soft footsteps, and never rushed anyone. But her kindness couldn't stop time. Elena Reyes passed on a Tuesday afternoon. The sky was blindingly blue. Michael had stepped out for 10 minutes, just to get Luna a juice box and stretch his legs. When he returned, the room was still. A window had been cracked open. The breeze fluttered the corner of Elena's blanket like a goodbye. Michael froze. No sob. No scream. Just a collapse inside himself that made no sound. The nurse rested a hand on his arm. She went peacefully. But peace didn't live in Michael's chest anymore. Luna sat in the corner, hugging her stuffed fox, blinking at her mother's unmoving body. "Is Mommy sleeping?" Michael crouched, voice hollow. "Yeah, baby, a really long nap." He buried her 3 days later in a borrowed suit. A family friend helped cover the casket. The funeral was small. 4 people, a folding chair, and a priest who mispronounced Elena's name twice. At the cemetery, Luna placed a drawing on the grave. A picture of their family holding hands. Stick figure smiles stretched wide. Michael stayed behind after everyone left. He sat on the grass beside her headstone as dusk painted the sky. His hands trembled, not from cold, from the weight. "You told me not to fall apart," he whispered. "But I don't know how to hold this." In the days that followed, he tried. He really tried. He pawned his wedding ring to buy Luna shoes. Moved into a friend's garage. He started delivering packages in cleaning offices. But grief has a cruel hunger, and it was about to take more than just love. It was about to take everything. The garage smelled of oil, mildew, and old regrets. It wasn't meant to be a home, but Michael made it one. A single mattress on the floor, a camping stove, a plastic bin for Luna's toys, and next to her makeshift bed, her sketchbook, always open, always filling. She drew in silence, letting her crayon do what her voice could. Single quotes. One page showed a girl peeking through cracked blinds, while her dad shoveled snow outside. Another showed a man and a child sharing a sandwich under a blanket. The sandwich was split in two, unevenly. The bigger half was in the child's hand. Michael never knew she noticed. One night, after working 2 shifts back to back, he stumbled in close to 1 a.m. His hands were cracked. His back screamed. Luna had left the lamp on, waiting for him. She blinked awake as he sat beside her. "You work too much, Daddy." He kissed her forehead. "I work so you don't have to worry, baby." She looked up serious. "But I do worry." Michael. Kids weren't supposed to say things like that. Not at 6. Not with eyes that old. He tucked her in tighter, tried to smile, but the corners of his mouth wouldn't lift. He watched her drift off, her small hand still gripping a crayon. Later that night, he found a drawing she had hidden under the mattress. It was the garage. Cold. Dark. But in the corner, 2 stick figures sat under a glowing yellow light, holding hands she'd written in crooked letters. "Safe when we're together." Michael clutched the paper to his chest. She never forgot the comfort he gave, even when the world gave him nothing. But comfort wouldn't pay rent, and time was running out. Michael's boots echoed through the sterile halls of Hartley Tech. The security office was cold, humming with fluorescent light and buzzing monitors. He glanced at his watch, 7:02 a.m., and cursed under his breath. He was already 3 minutes late. The morning had started badly. Luna's school bus broke down, and he had to walk her halfway there, pushing her tired little legs through icy sidewalks. It was the only way to keep her safe. But time didn't bend for him. His supervisor's glare was sharp. "Mr. Reyes, this is your 3rd tardy this month. We can't overlook this anymore." Michael's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry, ma'am. There was no other way. Policies are policies. Next time, it's probation." The words hit like a punch. That afternoon, Luna tugged at his sleeve, eyes wide. "Daddy, why do you look sad?" He forced a smile. "Just tired, sweetheart." At night, he scoured their bills by dim candlelight, balancing the rent, utilities, and Luna's school fees. Every late fee was a reminder of how close they were to losing it all. The next morning, a notice was slipped under their door. Eviction in 2 weeks. Michael slammed his fist against the wall, breathing heavy. He thought of Luna's drawing from last night, 2 stick figures holding hands under a flickering lamp. He whispered, "I won't let this be our story." But one mistake was already setting off a chain of failures, and the system was ready to swallow him whole. Michael sat stiffly in a sterile government office, the walls painted a cold institutional white. A clerk behind a glass partition peered at him dispassionately. "I'm here about housing assistance," Michael said, handing over his paperwork, pay stubs, eviction notice, Luna's birth certificate. The clerk tapped at the keyboard, eyes scanning. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reyes, your application is incomplete. You're missing a document from your previous employer." Michael's stomach dropped. "I've been out of work for 2 weeks. That company won't return my calls. Without that, we can't process your case." He blinked back, rising. Panic. Outside, the winter wind sliced through his coat like a knife. He called every number he could find, begged for help, but the system only gave him automated messages and closed doors. Each denial felt like another lock sealing shut on his family's future. Luna clung to his side, silent but watching. The government didn't blink. It didn't care. It just moved on, and Michael Reyes was becoming invisible. Dinner was always the hardest part. Michael sat at the kitchen table, Luna beside him, their plates half empty. He had scraped together enough to buy 1 loaf of bread and some peanut butter. He tore the bread into 2 halves, bigger for Luna, smaller for himself. She noticed immediately. "Daddy, why do you eat less?" He forced a smile. "Because your body needs more to grow." She looked at him, wide-eyed. Later, Michael sat alone on the worn couch, stomach aching from hunger he refused to admit. He didn't want Luna to see his weakness, but she already did. Next day, Luna brought home a drawing. It showed two figures sitting on a bench, sharing a single sandwich. Underneath she wrote, "Sharing love when food is gone." Michael's heart cracked. Even in the darkest moments, his daughter's love was a light, but love couldn't fill empty stomachs forever. Unbeknownst to Michael, Luna had started keeping a secret journal. Her crayon drawings told stories she couldn't say aloud. She drew the cramped garage where they slept, the cold nights without heat, the worried faces of strangers who passed by. She drew her father's tired eyes, the way he clenched his fists, and the long lines etched into his face. One drawing showed Luna holding her father's hand, a shining sun breaking through clouds above them. Michael never saw the pages until the night before his final day at Hartley Tech. He found the sketchbook tucked inside Luna's backpack. Flipping through the crude but powerful images, his throat tightened. Every page was a cry for help wrapped in childlike hope. It was a silent testament to their struggle and a mirror of his own failure to protect. For the first time, Michael felt exposed, vulnerable, but he also felt something else. Resolve. It was a rainy Thursday morning when Luna followed Michael into Hartley Tech's grand lobby. She had no choice. Her babysitter had canceled, and she refused to be left alone. The marble floors gleamed beneath crystal chandeliers. Expensive suits brushed past. Security cameras watched silently. Michael tried to keep her hidden behind the security desk, but minutes later, the CEO himself, Colton Hartley, stormed in. "What is this? A child in the workspace?" His voice cut through the murmurs. Michael swallowed hard. "Sir, I apologize. She had nowhere else." "Enough," Colton snapped. "This is a professional environment." He waved a hand at the HR manager. "Fire him. Effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the room. Luna's lip trembled as she clutched her father's leg. Michael stood frozen, humiliation burning his skin. The man who controlled their fate didn't see a struggling father, only a liability. As Michael packed his few belongings from the security office, Luna's sketchbook slipped from his worn jacket pocket, landing open on the glossy marble floor. Colton Hartley, sharp-eyed and curious despite himself, bent down. The pages told a story no boardroom presentation could. Drawings of a father sleeping in a car, sharing a single meal with his daughter, watching her from outside a school gate. Employees stopped, whispering. Some wiped their eyes. Colton's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, he saw beyond the guard's uniform. A man fighting a silent war. Luna looked up at Colton, tears welling in her eyes. "Daddy worked so hard. We don't have a house." The CEO swallowed hard, conflicted. A shadow of his own past flickered across his face. Michael's shame turned to something else, a glimmer of hope. Because sometimes, truth doesn't need words. Just a crayon and an open heart. In the quiet solitude of his glass office, Colton traced Luna's drawings with a finger. He remembered his own childhood, nights spent curled up in his father's car, clutching a thrift store blanket. His father, a mechanic, had sacrificed everything for Colton's future, but Colton's rise to billionaire hadn't erased those memories. It had hardened them. Looking at the Reyes family struggle through Luna's sketches, he felt a crack inside his armor. This wasn't just another employee. It was a reflection, a second chance. Colton summoned Michael the next day, not to fire him again, but to talk. He handed him a contract for a new role, designing affordable housing for low-income families. "Your experience, your fight matters here," Colton said quietly. "This company can help, but you have to help us, too." Michael hesitated, pride battling hope. He thought of Luna's eyes, her courage. "I'm in," he said. That night, after leaving the office, Michael sat on a park bench outside Luna's school. The weight of everything crashed over him. Grief, exhaustion, shame. He pulled his knees close, tears leaking despite himself. A mother walking her child glanced over, offering a gentle smile. Michael wiped his face, stood and whispered, "I can do this." For her. The next morning dawned cold and gray, the kind of day where even the sun seemed reluctant to rise. Michael waited anxiously outside Luna's elementary school, fingers gripping the strap of his worn messenger bag. He wasn't expecting company, but then, through the crowd of parents and teachers, stepped Colton Hartley himself, the Billionaire CEO, dressed sharply in a tailored coat, eyes scanning until they met Michael's. Luna's eyes widened as Colton approached, holding her sketchbook carefully in his hands. "I wanted to return this," Colton said, voice softer than Michael had ever heard. Michael blinked. "Thank you, sir." Colton knelt to Luna's level, smiling gently. "Your drawings? They tell a story that needs to be heard." Luna, shy at first, smiled back and held out her hand. Michael watched the moment, a mixture of disbelief and cautious hope settling in his chest. For the first time, the gap between their worlds seemed smaller. Colton straightened, turning to Michael. "I want to meet with you tomorrow, about the new project. We're counting on you." Michael nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He glanced down at Luna, who was already sketching again, this time. A bright sun rising over a house. Sometimes, unlikely meetings spark the fiercest fires. The next day, Michael stepped into a bright, bustling design studio within Hartley Tech's new social initiative wing. Walls were adorned with community plans, children's drawings, and photos of families who needed hope. Colton was waiting, arms crossed but eyes warm. "This isn't just architecture," he said. "It's about dignity. About giving families a place to call home, where no father has to choose between work and childcare." Michael nodded, heart pounding. He pulled out Luna's sketchbook, now slightly worn from being carried everywhere. "These drawings, they tell the truth. They remind us why we build." Colton smiled, placing a hand on Michael's shoulder. "We want you to lead this project. Design spaces that feel like home, not just walls." As Michael walked through the workspace, a spark ignited. The chance to rebuild more than houses. To rebuild lives. That night, he sat with Luna, showing her the designs inspired by her art. She beamed. "We're making real homes?" Michael hugged her close. "Yes, baby. Real homes with warm hearts." For the first time in years, hope felt within reach. He never wanted applause. He didn't dream of wealth. Michael Reyes just wanted one thing, for his daughter to never feel like she was a burden. He lost jobs, lost his home, even lost his sense of worth. But he never let go of her hand. Sometimes the world only hears the truth when a child says it softly. And sometimes a sketchbook can shout louder than a courtroom. Maybe we all have a choice, to look away or to lean in, because in a world that forgets the working class, a single dad remembered how to draw hope.